So Chris Canty made a bombshell claim that I'm surprised a lot of people didn't pick up on. And a lot of people are probably not going to pick up on it until it actually happens. And if you know me, I've been the one talking about it for a long time, that Myles Garrett is going to be traded. Now, this isn't just internet speculation. I know I'm not one of the big wigs out here, but a lot of it is just common sense, to be totally honest. And when Chris Canty came out, being a former player himself, he was able to give you some of the inside access on how things work. And if you put it together, I had to put it in my notes. You look at it, the Browns did a restructure with Myles in March. Andrew Berry came out and said, hey, we just moving money around and make sure we got space to do other things, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't believe it then. He has not been at OTAs. It's definitely an organizational disconnect. He's not handling it like he handled it last year, going on Rich Eisen and all of those things to say that he was ready to get out of Cleveland, that he was unhappy with the way the organization's going. This year, he's moving a little bit different. I'm guessing he's living his best life, whatever you want to call it, but he's definitely not doing it with the Browns organization right now. And I think he's just ready to go. And like I said, a lot of things match up. So I was surprised that a lot of people have not caught on to this. And we go get into it. So, this is D. D knows. Glad to be back in the space where I am kind of just coming off the cuff. You know what I mean? Like more like raw radio reaction, radio style. I know over the last few months, you guys have not seen me on camera. That is because we are going through a studio renovation. That is what we're doing right now. I want to be able to bring the best show to you guys. I want you guys to be a part of what is going on. So we'll still have the narrative-driven videos, but it'll be, this time coming up, it'll be more raw reactions during the live shows like we were doing a few live shows a week or whatever the case may be. And, just back on camera so you guys can, get the raw reactions versus the more narrative-driven videos, which, to take a little time to bring those videos out. It's a lot of cutting, a lot of editing, stuff like that. So just wanted to come on here and talk about this Myles Garrett thing. And when you look at the situation, like I said, the Browns aren't going to really talk. Andrew Berry really doesn't handle his business that way. I heard Daryl Ryder from 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. He was talking about it. You never hear about Andrew Berry when he makes moves. It's very quiet. But if you follow the timeline and you look at it and you see that they're restructuring money and they're doing all of these things, you don't restructure money unless you're looking to either get off of somebody or you may have some type of trade in the works, because Myles Garrett's contract is enormous, right? I think his contract, he's getting like $42-43 million a year. That signing bonus was crazy. And that signing bonus is probably about, if I have to think, it's about 70% of his contract. So, that's guaranteed money. So you got to kind of flip around that money if you want to move him to another team, because no team is going to be able to take on that guarantee, especially when that other team, like say the Philadelphia Eagles or the Dallas Cowboys or any of those teams that are like one player away from, getting to the Super Bowl. Those teams probably have a lot of players that are locked up on big time contracts. So you have to have the flexibility to be able to move these contracts. And you're not going to tell me the Browns is doing that for the reasons of bringing in more players that is going to put them in contention when this team is still about another, maybe 2 years away. You still don't have the quarterback yet. You haven't figured out that part yet. Is Deshaun Watson, which is crazy as it sounds, is he your quarterback of the quote-unquote future? Can he stay healthy? He's looked good in 7-on-7s, but it's 7-on-7s. It's gonna take when the live action happens to see who he is. And I think that ship has sailed at this point. Shador is going into his second year. He had flaws in his game coming out of school, and it's a growing period. So we don't know what Shador Sanders is. So this team is not ready to win. You look at this team may be at best, let's just say they have a really good year. Maybe 7 wins at the most. This is that type of team. This isn't a 9-win team that's fighting for a playoff spot. It's definitely not a team that's going to win their division. So when you look at the situation, what are you holding on to Myles Garrett for? And see, I said this a couple years ago, before we got to this point now, about Myles Garrett wanting out of Cleveland, even before he made the trade request in 2025. I was saying at that point, what was the point of keeping him? Because what you could do is, with Deshaun Watson being a failure in Cleveland at that point, you've given up 3 first-round picks. You've given up a couple other early round picks, and you can't fill out the team. Y'all spent a whole bunch of money. Y'all went in to try to be a playoff contender team, and you went totally the opposite way. So then you put yourself in positions where, the Houston Texans got all their picks. I think that was the Will Anderson, C.J. Stroud whole deal. These are big key players. So the Browns are just now starting to get their picks back. Just last year, they drafted Mason Graham. He looks like he's going to be pretty good. You got the Spencer Fano. So the Browns have done a pretty good job in these last 2 years of drafting. Imagine if they would have had all their picks. This team would be a little bit further. But when you make a deal for someone like a Deshaun Watson at that time, you have to give up a massive pick. So we're at this point now in 2026 where this team is not in a position to win. Myles Garrett is 30 years old at this point. I think the dude wants to win. Okay, he won Defensive Player of the Year. He's got the sack record. He's done all those things, but he's only been to the playoffs one time. He's only been to the playoffs once. So at this point now, what else is out there for him? We all know he is a freak of nature athlete. He has refined his techniques. He relied on his athleticism for years. That's why I always had TJ Watt ahead of him, because TJ Watt physically just wasn't as gifted as Myles Garrett, but he had all the tools that made him better than Myles to me. Now Myles has caught up because he has the athleticism and he has the, he's just a freak of nature. Now he's put the hand movements and all of those things together. And, he's passed him up, and he's the best defensive end in the game. But he's also 30 years old. One knee sprain, one whatever the case may be, and he automatically slows down. We all know how it is when you get over 30. You're an athlete, you really have to baby your body. And one wrong move, he's on the decline. And the Browns get what for him then? You saw Max Crosby almost got, 2-3 first-round picks for his services in Baltimore. Baltimore backed out because they said, the knee looked janky or whatever the case may be. Well, we know Myles Garrett is maybe on a little higher of a level than Max Crosby. Now, that could be debated because Max was a Raider and is a Raider, and their situation is just as worse as the Browns' situation is. We'll see how it changes going into 2026. But Myles is in a situation where he wants to win now. He's done everything he can in Cleveland, and if there's not a situation where this team is going to go forward, what would be the point of holding on to him? And I hear a lot of people saying he needs to retire at Cleveland Brown. What, like Joe Thomas did? Joe Thomas retired at Cleveland Brown too. Hall of Fame left tackle. Did Joe Thomas, being a Hall of Fame left tackle, help their quarterback play? No. Did he get them to the playoffs? No. And, Joe's loyalty, he wanted to stay in Cleveland. He had a chance to send him to the Denver Broncos, if I'm not mistaken. They probably could have got 2 first-round picks, and the Browns could have re-upped at that time and used those picks. But they have that situation again. You have a Hall of Famer that's on the cusp of the Hall of Fame in Myles Garrett, the way his numbers looking and the way his career is going. The Browns right now are still in a rebuilding phase. You have to strike while the iron's hot, because if he gets hurt and he twists his knee, and this might be his first time, I'm just not wishing for anything on Myles Garrett, but he might get to a situation where he is, like I said, he's 30 years old. He twists a knee, he sprains a knee. He's out for a few weeks. He's not going to heal up as fast as he used to. So why not put him in a situation where, A, he can win. He's giving the Browns over, I want to say, 9 years of service at this point? Haven't gotten anywhere. The Browns still have to address the elephant in the room and getting a quarterback. Then the Browns could make up for the Deshaun Watson fiasco. Get you 3 first-round picks. Go into the 2027 draft. If you want the Arch Manning, you have all the ammunition to go get him. Quarterback of the future. Then you got other picks. You're not going to get another Myles Garrett in that draft. But you can put a lot of complementary pieces on that line, and you got a formidable team to go forward with. Remember, the Browns are going into a new stadium in the next few years, so you're going to have a face of the franchise, and Myles Garrett is not going to be the face of the franchise. By the time the Browns go into that new stadium, Myles Garrett is going to be like 33, 34 years old if they were to keep him. So at this point now, you have to look at the situation and say, hey, we have to do what's best for the organization. Not because people, really love him. He's the best player Cleveland had, and 30 years or all that other stuff. At the end of the day, the Cleveland Browns franchise is not winning. As far as I'm concerned, I was calling for Andrew Berry's job at one point, but he has not missed in these drafts, in these last 2 drafts, at least on paper. Last year's draft with the linebacker from UCLA, Carson Schlesinger, Harold Fannin Jr., Quinshon Judkins, all those guys so far through their year 1 look like home runs. I think he did a good job at this draft. Get Denzel Boston. You got the speedster and Casey Concepcion and some other players. I think he did a good job in this draft, and we'll see how it looks once the season starts. But you got to go for it. This is not an in-between situation where you can keep your veterans and bring the young guys in, and hopefully they mix and you're winning games and fighting for playoff spots. This is not that team. This team is in a rebuild. Go ahead and give Myles Garrett up. Go ahead and get you the 3 first-round picks and set sail for the future. It is 27 and beyond. Go get Arch Manning or Lenore Sellers or whoever it is that you want and move forward. That's where this team is at right now. So where there's smoke, there is fire. Chris Canty came out and said that he believes Myles Garrett is on the trade block, and I do too. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll be putting out more videos like this. Let me know. Myles Garrett get traded after June 1st, because that is when the money kind of moves the Browns' way, and that they can trade him. And if they trade him, where would he go? Philadelphia Eagles makes sense. The Dallas Cowboys make sense. The Buffalo Bills make sense. Let me know who you guys think would be a good fit for Myles Garrett. Until the next video. Peace.